is fun, but hard. It is a period of your life filled with a whole lot of growth and a whole lot of change, and it can be hard sometimes, but it can also be a lot of fun, and it is just a pivotal moment in your life. If you're new here and you don't know who I am, hello, I'm Rachel. I just graduated college in December, and I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge to share from my own personal experiences about so many different topics related to college. A lot of this is stuff that kind of makes me go, wow, I wish someone told me this when I was going into college. And then it's kind of mixed in with just other tips from my experiences and just advice on a whole lot of things. So if you're an incoming freshman or really just at any point in your college journey, buckle up. This video is going to be packed full of helpful information and advice for college students, things that I wish I knew going in, things that I learned along the way. And just a disclaimer, all the stuff I'm sharing today is based on my own personal experiences and things I wish I knew. Obviously, every college is different and every student is different. So some of these things might apply to you, some might not, but I'm just sharing everything that I have in my brain that I wish I had known or that I think would be helpful for you. Get cozy, grab a drink. We're gonna be going over a lot. So there are a gazillion topics we could talk about in this video, so many different aspects to college, but I kind of divided it into 4 different categories. I of course have tips for the academic side of college because that's kind of a big part of college, but then I also have tips for your social life, your dorm life if you are living in a dorm, and also just personal tips. We'll start off with academics and probably the thing that people struggle with the most going into college and the thing that I certainly struggled with, which is choosing a major. I saw some statistics somewhere that was something crazy, like about 80% of college students will change their major at least once. And you know what? I believe it because you're looking at a girl who changed her major 4 times. And what I'm about to tell you is probably at the top of my list of things I wish someone had told me going into college. So this is like the most important thing I have to say. If you are not 100% sure on your major and what you want to do with your life, do not pick one. Obviously, I can't speak to every single college in the world, but I would imagine most colleges have something like this. My university has an option where you can declare your major as exploratory, which basically means you're not in a major, you're just taking classes in a few different majors that you are interested in, and you're basically just like getting to try out different options. Now, I did not know this was an option. No one told me, and it's not like it's really advertised on the list of majors. Like, they don't list it as a major option. So when I was looking at my options, I didn't know. And I originally applied to my university as a nursing major. I know. And then going into my first meeting with my advisor before freshman year to really pick out my classes and my schedule, I had decided I wanted to change to interior design. Now you would think that that would be like a big red flag to my advisor of like, oh, she's taking a complete 180 here, going from nursing to interior design. Let me see if she knows what she really wants to do. If not, let me suggest, hey, maybe you try exploratory. This did not happen. This conversation did not come up. It was basically oh, so I saw in your application you were nursing, but now you're submitting a schedule for interior design. Is that correct? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, cool. So highly recommend that you look into your college and see if it's an option to do that, because I would have loved to try out a couple of the different majors I was interested in all at the same time so I could figure out quicker which one I wanted to do instead of wasting a year and a half trying these different majors by being in them and then finally figuring out what I want to do. But let's say you're like, no, I want to skip that. I want to just pick my major. I do have some tips on how you should maybe go about picking if you're not sure. Obviously, it's different for everyone, and it's not like the things I'm going to tell you are going to be like a light bulb moment of, oh, why didn't I think of that? Now I know exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. But these are just things that I encourage you to consider when you are trying to pick a major, because these are things that I thought of in my head but kind of ignored and pushed back, and at the end of the day they would have helped me get to where I ended up going way quicker if I just kind of listened to it. So first, I feel like you should really consider what's more important to you, doing something that makes money or doing something that you absolutely love. And there's no wrong answer to this. I think there are some people who just don't have a strong enough passion for something to make it their work, so they'll do something they're good at that will make them money, and that's perfectly fine. Then there are other people who are really passionate about something and want to like chase that path, chase that dream, even if it doesn't make them the most money, so they'll do that. And either option is fine. It really just depends on you and your interests. For example, coming into college, I applied as nursing. One, because I wanted to help people. You know, I feel like most people want to do something that helps others. But also, I knew that there was a good amount of cash to be a nurse. So that was definitely a motivating factor. But then I just kind of realized, never mind, I want to do something I'm more passionate about. Whereas my fiance, he came in as computer engineering and never switched. Then again, he does enjoy computer engineering, but it's not like his all-time big life passion. He's just good at it, and it will make him money, so that's kind of the path he went down. But either option is fine. So if you choose to make money, I can't really help you there, because you're just going to have to go look at what'll make you money and what you and your skills can accomplish. But if you choose to do something you love or you're passionate about, that's where my tips will continue for you, because that's what I chose to do. So I feel like that just from my own personal experiences, I think you should start out, if you're really undecided, think about, what did you love in your childhood? What did you do in your childhood that you really enjoyed? And I think if you look at these trends of things you like to do, it might point you in the right direction of a possible major. For example, if you loved playing sports or watching sports, you might want to consider a major in sports management or sports medicine, something along those lines, because you're super into sports. Or even journalism if you want to go the more like journalistic route. If you loved crafting and DIYing, maybe you want to go the artsier route, like art or interior design or graphic design. Or if you liked building things, depending on how much you liked it or what you like to build, maybe engineering or architecture, one of those paths is for you. So yes, dig deep, reflect on your childhood, figure out what you liked to do as a kid, and then don't ignore these passions. Now, my other majors besides nursing were interior design and art, so I didn't fully ignore these passions, but I definitely ignored one big one, because for some reason I had it in my head that I just couldn't follow that path, and that was movies, which is where I ended up. I'm in film production, or I just finished film production. I grew up thinking it would be so cool to make movies. I thought it would be really fun to do set design. I also thought it would be fun to be on the camera. I also loved photography, and I practically begged my parents for a camera in middle school. And I also loved watching behind the scenes videos of the making of movies, especially Harry Potter. So it's like all those interests and those things that I love to do so clearly pointed to film production or anything in that industry, but I just like fully ignored those passions and was like, no, I'll do this. And I don't know, I just wish that I hadn't. I wish I had thought about those more deeply and been like, wow, it's pretty clear what my past self wanted to do, and I still feel those things. So hopefully that helps you make a decision, but if not, I strongly encourage you to just scroll through your university's like list of majors and what they offer, and just anything that sounds even remotely interesting, read about it. If it still sounds interesting, write it down and just make like a whole big master list of every major you're considering that you might be interested in. And that way, if you pick one, you don't like it, then you can, okay, I tried that, don't like it, go back to the list, pick another one. I definitely had a list going when I was in the process of picking a major. I had a list of a bunch of options, and when I tried one and didn't like it, I would be like, okay, that one's out, and I would go back to that list and pick another to try. So that's also an option if you're like me and you kind of just have to try everything out until you find what you like. All right, that was a long first tip, but we're gonna keep on rolling here. Still in the academic category, my next big tip is to be picky with your schedule. This is something I was good at after freshman year. Freshman year, I was not, and I realized that I should really prioritize my time more when I'm picking a schedule. So I don't know who needs to hear this. My freshman self certainly did, but just because you did 6 to 7 hours of school a day from kindergarten to senior year of high school does not mean you should continue that into college. So don't think, oh, I did it in high school, I can do it in college and I'll be just fine. No. And in the same vein, don't think you should take like 47 credits of classes your first year, because you shouldn't. Literally though, for some reason, myself included, all freshmen come in thinking, let me just take a crap ton of credits because I took so many APs in high school, and I took more classes than I was like meant to in high school, so I'll be fine taking on like a huge load of courses now, right? No. Don't do that to yourself. Why? Don't do that. I personally think the magic number of courses is 4. I feel like credits differ between universities. My university, it's like most courses are 3 credits. So when you take 4 classes, you're taking 12 credits. I think that's the magic number. Obviously, it depends on your schedule and how many credits you're coming in with, your timeline for graduation. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of only taking 4 classes, but I feel like that's a pretty good number, and I feel like that is kind of the average that most people do, and it's a perfect amount. All right, I gotta put my coffee down to continue this conversation. So like I said, be picky with your schedule. What do I mean by this? This is the first time in your life that you have all the flexibility and freedom in the world to pick your schedule. Obviously, that was a little bit dramatic. You don't have that much freedom because you have to pick classes based on what the university decided they'd be scheduled at. So like, obviously you're not deciding that part. But you have so many options, you really do. And that's why I'm saying you should be picky if you can, because you finally have the luxury of making your own schedule, whereas K through 12, you didn't have that. So take advantage and make a schedule that you're happy with and that you won't hate yourself for. For example, my freshman year, I somehow ended up with a day in my schedule where I had 8 hours of classes back to back. And this is what I mean by don't think just because you did it in high school, that many hours of classes back to back, that you can do it in college, because it is not the same thing. Granted, my freshman year was during COVID, so every single course was online. So I was sitting at my desk for 8 hours straight, staring at my laptop on Zooms. And I am already prone to headaches just on a normal day. So that day, each week that I had those 8 hours of classes, I was just guaranteed a headache. So don't do what I did. Be picky. Obviously, sometimes there are things that are out of your control, especially majors like the fine arts majors, the BFAs. They usually have really strict schedules that you have to follow because there's like 8 classes that go back to back that you have to take before the next one. So you have to take them like in each semester and you can't move it around. But some majors are more flexible, and there are classes that you just need to get done before you graduate. It doesn't matter when. So if you don't like the time slot of it and you like the time slot of another class that's required that you were going to take later, move them around, and then you'll have a much nicer schedule and it doesn't affect your graduation at all. All right, my next tip, dig deep for opportunities to get involved. I think that a lot of colleges have way more resources for you to get involved and get experience in your field than you realize. And you just have to look for them because they're not always advertised in the best way. And sometimes you got to really dig to find them. But you really should, even if it means going to your advisor and saying, what can I do to get more experience? That's literally what I ended up doing. There were things I had heard of in my college that like could get me more hands-on experience in my field, but I didn't understand what they were. I didn't understand how to find them or sign up for them. So I literally just went to my advisor and I was like, I want more hands-on experience. What do I do? And he pointed me in the right direction. And I ended up getting so much valuable hands-on experience in my field that I would never get in my classes. So really dig for those. Go to your advisor and ask if you have to, because those are really valuable. You'll leave your college with way more experience than someone who didn't do any of those things, because there's only so much you can learn in your classes. And my last tip in the academic category is for everyone chasing internships and feeling like they are behind and can't get anything. And that is, internships do not just fall into your lap. It especially depends on the field you're in, I think, but I just feel like it can be really hard to be a college student and be comparing yourself to other people who are getting really cool internship opportunities and you're not getting anything. And that can be really hard because internships are just like ingrained in our brains as a big part of college, because they are. I mean, a lot of people do get internships in college, but I feel like the way we talk about internships and like how much you connect them and associate them with college, it makes you think that like everyone gets internships all the time, and that's just not the case. Now, it definitely depends on your major. I feel like I can't speak to every major, but like, for example, if you're in a more creative major like I am, everything is so subjective. It's not like the STEM majors where it's like, can you do math? Do you know science? Do you know how to code? All right, you're objectively good. You can have this internship. Like, it's not that same level. when you're in something creative, it's very subjective. It's like, look at this film I made, I'm so proud of it. Someone might think, wow, that is really good. Someone else might be like, that's not really my cup of tea. And there's nothing you can do to convince them because it's just their opinion. It's just what they feel about your work. So I feel like that makes it really hard in the more creative industries to get internships. So don't just try your best. I know it's so much easier said than done, but don't compare yourself so much to other people, especially if they're in the STEM industry and they're getting internships and you're not. It's not like oh, they're better than me type of thing. It's just every industry is different. Every person is different. Every hiring manager is different and they're looking for different things. So yeah, I just want to make that clear. Internships do not just fall into your lap. I had one internship throughout all of college. It was unpaid. It was for a small company. It wasn't really even in the line of what I want to do. It was more graphic design focused and I want to do film stuff. But it was still something, so I took it. But just it wasn't for a huge well-known company. I didn't get to go to Los Angeles for the summer. That is not always the norm, even though it might seem like it is when everyone around you is getting to do that. So yeah, I don't know if anyone needed to hear that, but if you're out there and you're comparing yourself to people and you're upset you didn't get that internship, it's okay. Other opportunities will come along. All right, moving on from academics, because although that is obviously a big part of college, it is not the only part. Next, I'm going to be talking about the social aspect of college, because that's obviously a huge part, and it can be a scary and stressful part. So don't fear. I am a huge introvert, and I survived, and I made friends. So it is possible, and we're going to talk about it today. First point, joining student orgs and clubs through your college. What I have to say about this is not high school, so don't treat it like high school. Maybe this isn't everyone, although I think it's most people. In high school, I very much was one of those people that joined all the clubs, all the honor societies and the smart people clubs, because I knew it would make me look better for college. It wasn't oh, I love doing this. It was okay, I need to be in all the honor societies so I look good for college. Don't do that to yourself in college, because that's not the case. Then again, I did not go to grad school. I don't know what they're looking for. I can't imagine it's the same requirements as high school. I feel like they probably wouldn't care as much, but I don't know. So maybe look into that yourself and see if it would benefit you to join a bunch of clubs. And then if it does, sorry, you're going to have to continue a little longer doing that. But if you're not going to grad school and you're just getting your bachelor's and then you're peacing out, don't join clubs that you don't enjoy. I definitely encourage you to try some, because this is a great way to meet people, especially if it's your freshman year of college and you don't know anyone. It is a great way to meet people and connect with people that may have similar interests to you. You can try the professional development ones and the ones that relate to your major, but then also try some hobby ones that are completely outside your major, just things that interest you, because I feel like that's a good way to meet people that you might have common interests with and then click with. But my big thing here is if you don't find any that you like and you've tried a bunch and you're just not vibing with any of them, that's fine. You don't have to be in student orgs to make friends or to have a well-rounded college experience. I really didn't do any clubs. I didn't really commit to any fully. I definitely tried several and went to a few meetings of each one, but I never really, I don't know, I just didn't really care for it that much, especially when you're spending so much of your time on campus during the day, taking classes, doing homework, and whatever other extracurriculars you're involved in to get more experience. So it's the last thing I want to do with my free time is stay on campus longer to go to a student club, That was kind of how I felt about it. So I didn't really end up even doing any, and I'm fine. I don't have any regrets. So if you don't vibe with it, that's fine. If you do, great, because I do think it is a good way to meet people. So go for it. Go join student clubs and make friends. And speaking of making friends, this is a big point that I feel like is not talked about a lot, but I obviously had to include it in the social side of this video, and that is making friends. I feel like no one warned me that making friends is really hard. I don't know if this is something that other people also were caught off guard by when they went to college. I feel like it's probably a pretty common thing, simply because growing up, I feel like I didn't realize how easy it was to make friends because of how our society works. You go to school for 6 or 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for how many, 13 years of your life, and then it's like if you're not moving around a lot and you're just going to the schools in your school system from K to 12, then you're with the same people all the time. So it's like super easy and natural to make friends in that environment because you're surrounded by the same people all the time. You're constantly taking classes with the same people, especially when you get into high school and you start to like get a little more freedom in picking your schedule, like doing APs and stuff like that. Like you're gonna be with the same students probably pretty much from freshman to senior year because you're all taking the AP courses together and you're all in the same grade. So I feel like it's so natural and easy to make friends in high school. And that's something I didn't consider when I was going to college, is you don't have that. Now, let me clear that up. You do have that a bit more later in college, depending on your major, but like especially in the beginning, if you're coming in with not a lot of credits, so you're having to take all the gen ed courses, or even if you come in with a lot of credits but you still have to take like the like bottom of your major courses, like all the really generic ones that everyone has to take, those are all in giant lecture halls with hundreds of students where everyone is just trying to not have to sit next to someone else, and everyone's just showing up, sitting there, listening to lecture and leaving. There's no collaboration. It's just the professor talking for an hour or more, and then everyone leaves. So it's like that type of environment is not at all the same thing, and it's really hard to make friends with people because no one cares to talk to you. So basically, I did not consider these things going into college, and I didn't know it was going to be so hard. So I feel like my biggest tip is just put in effort. The thing with making friends in college is you have to put in so much more effort than you did in high school just because of the atmosphere you're in, and like the environment just doesn't encourage friendships, especially in the beginning. I'm going to touch on the end of college later, but in the beginning it really does not encourage friendships, so you have to really try. That's why I'm saying if you try student clubs and you would like them, that's great and you should stick with them because I think you will make friends that way. I just personally never found any that I vibed with. Also, if you're living on campus, like your freshman year in a dorm, that might also help you make friends. I definitely made some friends through my dorm life experience because there's a common room where everyone would go hang out outside of their rooms, and like you're constantly passing each other in the hallways, or if you're using the kitchen and someone else is, and you meet that way. So I think living in a dorm is actually really good for making friends your freshman year too. And most of the people living in the dorms are also freshmen, so you're all kind of going through the same stuff together. So it's kind of like you can bond over that. So I do think that's a good way to make friends too, joining student orgs, living in a dorm. But I will say, even though I'm over here saying it's really hard to make friends in your classes, I did make some of my closest friends in my classes, but it wasn't until later in college. So in the beginning, part of it was I was constantly switching my major, but also I was taking all the generic classes that are in the lecture halls where no one talks to each other. But when you get later into your major, you get into those smaller courses where there's more collaboration, and then it does open the door for friendships, I feel like. Now, and again, depends on your major. A lot of the STEM majors are just lectures until you graduate, so I feel like it would be a lot harder to make friends in those classes. But from my experience in my film production major, the more creative majors, you have smaller classes as you get closer to your graduation and you get to those higher level courses, and those really do create an environment where you can make friends, especially if your major is very collaborative. You have group projects where you have to work together. My major, we have to make films, which is hours and hours and hours and hours of work outside of class, so you spend so much time together with the people in your group that it really just does like let you get to know them, bond with them, become friends with them. So that is a really big bonus of a creative major, I feel like. I made really close friends because of that environment, but it takes a bit to get to those classes because in the beginning you are just in those giant lecture halls. So you definitely have to really put in effort, especially in the beginning, to make friends with everyone. But then even later, if you're making friends through your classes are a lot shorter in college. They're only like 15, 16 weeks. Or if you're on the quarter system, they're like 10 weeks. So once the class is over, you won't see them anymore, or at least it kind of depends on your schedule. So like even if you're starting to become friends with people through your courses, you still have to put in that effort outside to reach out to them and plan stuff with them to make sure you like keep that friendship going. I don't know if any of those things I just said were helpful. I hope they were, but just know it is hard to make friends. If you're struggling, you are not the only one. And I think a good way to look at it, especially if you're a freshman coming in, is everyone around you who's a freshman, they don't have any friends either. You're all coming to this new school together. A lot of you probably are not going to the same schools as your high school friends. So everyone's looking for friends. I think that's something to try to remind yourself of when you get nervous to talk to someone or nervous to ask them to hang out or ask for their number or whatever. I mean, just think about how you would feel if someone did that to you as you're struggling to make friends. You'd probably feel really grateful that they approached you because you're looking for friends too. So chances are the person you're considering approaching would probably feel the same way. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. And finally, if you're still not convinced, go out, go to clubs or bars if you're of age, go to sporting events. Like in those environments, I feel like people kind of let down their guard a bit. And it's easier to talk to people, especially at sporting events. You're crammed into those bleachers, and everyone there has so much school spirit. If you go to a school where students have a lot of school spirit, I don't know. At my college, they did. So it's kind of like you bond with people there because you're both like you have so much pride for your school and you have all the school spirit and you're cheering on your team. And so you kind of bond there. So you could make friends through those. Obviously, if you go out, people are probably drinking. They let their guard down a bit. They're more friendly and more willing to talk to strangers. So yeah, if you're still not convinced by everything else I said, just go out places and go do things and you'll meet people. And you know what? If you're still struggling to make friends after all that and you're still not convinced it's possible, when all else fails, keep your high school besties close. That brings me to my last point in the social category, and that is your high school friendships do not need to die. I feel like growing up, I heard from my parents all these stories about college and their college friends, and like there's all this like talk of how you meet your lifelong friends in college. And that's definitely true. I definitely feel like I have friends in college that I will be friends with for the rest of my life, but I still feel that about my closest friends from high school, and I feel like that part isn't talked about. I feel like a lot of times people give the impression that your high school friendships aren't going to last forever, and it's kind of like your friends in high school, then you all split up and go to college, and then you never talk to them again. I don't think that's the case. It isn't for me, that's for sure. And if that's something you're worried about because you and your friends are going to different schools, don't let that freak you out. Like, it's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. If you want to stay friends, just keep talking to each other. So all that to say, you will make friends in college. It's just going to take time. But if you're ever feeling lonely, call up your high school bestie and talk to them. Most of my closest friends from high school went to other schools. I have my fiance here with me, thank God, because that would have been really sad if we went to different schools. And then we have one friend here that was in our friend group that we're really close with that went to high school with us. But then the other few of them that were all like in our kind of little friend group, they all went to other schools. 2 of them went across the whole country to schools on the other coast. And we still talk to them. We're still really good friends. And I really don't feel like our friendship has like lessened at all. If anything, I feel like the distance almost makes your friendship stronger, because the only way that you can spend time with someone who's across the country from you is to call them and talk. You can't go do things. You can't watch a movie. You can't play a game. So it's like all you can do is talk to them. So it kind of like opens the door for like getting personal and like really talking about stuff that maybe you never even talked about when they were here. So I really don't think the distance has to kill your friendships. I don't think going to a different college from your high school friends means that your high school friendships have to die. I think if anything, they'll get stronger. And if you really love your high school friends and you're sad about going to a different school and you're scared you guys aren't going to be friends anymore, that's really not the case. I think that high school friends can be just as meaningful and last just as long as college friends. So just in summary, before we move on to my next category, there are lots of ways to meet people and make friends, but it is really hard and it just takes time to really develop those friendships. All right, next category, dorm life. If you're not a college freshman and this doesn't apply to you, or if you are a college freshman but you're not living in the dorms, I'll give you the timestamp to skip to right here for the rest of the video. But if you are a college freshman or you are currently in the dorms, this might be helpful. Now, my first tip is something that I really wish someone would have told me to prep for when you're moving in with a roommate, especially if it's a random roommate, which I feel like most freshmen are moving in with a random roommate in the dorms. And that is to set really clear expectations and boundaries with your roommate and like do it from day one. What no one tells you is like, just think about this. You're literally about to move in with a complete stranger, probably in the same room, because most dorms you share a room with them. So it's really important to set really clear boundaries and expectations about your living situation from the start, because if you don't, that just like leaves the door open for drama and tension and things that just like might upset you. But it's like you can't blame them if you didn't tell them from the start that that would upset you, you know? So I feel like my roommate freshman year was good about this. Like she seemed to come in with like kind of like a mental checklist of like things to ask me, like, oh, how do you feel about this? Are you comfortable with this? But I didn't do the same. So when she was asking me, I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine with that. No, I'm not fine with that. And it was like, oh, this is cool. Like she came prepared, but I didn't. So I didn't have anything to reciprocate with. And I feel like there were boundaries that I should have shared that I didn't, because I just didn't think to, and no one told me to come prepared with those things. But that is something you really should be prepared to discuss like on day one. Things like your morning and evening routines, bonus points if you guys have different shower schedules and one showers in the morning, one showers at night. You could discuss expectations for when one person is trying to go to bed and the other has to be up late studying. Expectations for having friends over while the other one is home, because obviously if you have friends over, you're all going to be in the same room because there's no other room in one dorm. Boundaries with what you're comfortable sharing, borrowing, stuff like that. Just anything you can think of that has to do with living with someone, you should discuss it. I feel like there's probably tons of checklists online of like what boundaries to set with my roommate from the start. Like you could probably just Google that and find great things that you didn't even think about. And my next and only other dorm tip, but something I think is very important, is to separate your work from your dorm. Try to do as little homework in your room as possible. Those dorm rooms are so small and so constricting that if you do everything in them, you will go crazy. They're already the place where you sleep, where you might eat. You might do your homework at your desk, which I'm telling you not to, but you might. If you want to watch movies, you got to do it in that room. If you want to read a book, you'll probably be in that room. Literally just anything that you would normally do at home, if you do it all in that room, you're going to feel so restricted and like claustrophobic almost, because it's such a small room. It's almost like the idea of like, don't do homework in bed or don't do work in bed, because it's like that's like your sacred sleep space. It's really hard to avoid doing that stuff in your dorm room because it's your only room. But yeah, I highly recommend going to the library or a coffee shop to do your homework, and try to do all of it out of the room so that when you come back, your dorm room feels like your safe space and your home, instead of just like the space where you do work and you do everything. Consider eating in the common room so that your bedroom where you sleep doesn't feel like a kitchen. Consider hanging out with friends in the common room or just like around campus or going out somewhere. Basically, just try to be out and about during most of the day if you can, so that you don't feel like you're living your entire life and spending all of your time in this tiny little like 100 square foot box. All right, my final category is barely a category because I only have one tip in it, but it's what I'm calling the personal category. And this is less of something that it's like, oh, I wish I knew this, and more of something that like, hey, I did this and you should too. And that is to keep journals throughout college. I have one journal for each year of college, and like that's kind of how I divided them. So like at the start of the journal, it was the start of my next year. So I would like kind of keep them with the academic year. And I would just use it for literally everything. I used it to write my schedule in. I used it to like do a weekly spread for my classes and my coursework and what I had coming up. I used it for to-do lists, and then I also used it for more personal stuff, like my 1 line a day spread where I'd write a little line about my day each day, or like longer journal entries about just like how I'm feeling, if I'm stressed or happy or excited about something. Or like I would write about all the events happening in my life. So like when I went to a football game, I would write about that and be like, oh, this was so fun, we lost, or whatever. And it was just like, it's just, now I have 4 journals from my 4 years of college that just like document so many memories that I would probably forget without them. And yeah, I'm just like really happy that I did that and kept up with it, because college is such a fun and like special time in your life that goes by so fast and you don't realize it until it's over. It's such a special and unique time in your life. Like you'll never experience that kind of environment any other time in your life. So I feel like it's really special to be able to document it and have those memories like written down to look back on, because you're gonna forget a lot of it. All right, I have been talking for so long. I hope my editing self was able to get this video down to a reasonable time, but if not, and this was a long video, I hope it was at least helpful for you and had a lot of helpful information packed into it. I guess my last thought I want to leave you with is a full, well-rounded college experience goes beyond just the academics. I think like if you were a straight A student in high school and you had no life outside of school, don't carry that into college, or at least try to find more of a balance, because college is so fun. And it's just, like I said, it's such a special moment of your life that doesn't last very long. And while school is really stressful and busy and also very important, it's also not as like time consuming as a full-time job, 8 to 5, 5 days a week. Plus when you have kids, if you want kids, and like you have a family, like you're gonna have so much less time in your future. So I feel like using college as that time in your life when you can go to more parties with your friends or go to a lot of sporting events and like just have a ton of fun with your friends, just take advantage of that, because you're gonna have less time in the future to do those things. And obviously it's still important to keep your grades up and like do well in college, but at the end of the day, an employer just wants to see that you got the degree. So if you have the degree, great. If you got a C while you were doing it, no one cares. Literally no one cares. I don't know. Obviously everyone's different and has different priorities, but I personally feel like as long as you're passing your classes and you're gonna get the degree and you're not like letting all your education suffer, then it's fine if you go hang out with your friends at that party you got invited to instead of staying home and trying to get a head start on next week's work. You only get to be in college once, so make the most of it. And that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, I guess, of things I didn't cover, comment. I'd love to talk to you guys. If you have any like other college related things that you would like to see videos about or advice on, comment that too, because like I said, I just recently graduated, so I feel like I have a good amount of knowledge up here to help out like incoming freshmen or any college student at any point in their journey. So yeah, if you want to hear like more details about any of these topics, because I could go on and on about these things, let me know and I'll do like a deeper dive into like some of these. Or if there are other things I didn't touch on that you want advice on, comment that too. Literally anything. And finally, subscribe. Share this with a friend who's also in their college journey right now, and like this video. You know, if you thought all this was helpful, do those things, because those things will help me. Also comment below what you were drinking if you were having a drink as you followed along with this video.